Hey there, readers and storytellers, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Story Unfolding, a show about changing the world through creativity, ingenuity, and intellectual discourse. We share meaningful conversations with creators, creatives, and dreamers who take it upon themselves to make a difference in the world. We have an influence on the world around us, regardless of our intent. The only way forward is by confronting the hard truths, asking the tough questions, and letting your voice be heard. We are better together each day with our human story unfolding. Now, I am pleased to have Madilynn Dale, or Maddie, as I was just told that I can call her, with me today. Thank you for joining me. And let me give you a quick intro before I open the floor to you. So Maddie is an indie author and mom based out of Oklahoma City. She is a host for Talking Indie Mayhem. Oh my gosh, having trouble with pronouncing words today. With Go Indie Now, and interviews authors on the regular for her channel and blog, The Chapter Goddess. She writes in a mix of genres, including fantasy, urban fantasy, young adult fantasy, paranormal romance, adventure, and romance. Her books are published widely. She is a nature lover and enjoys being outdoors. So Maddie, thank you so much for joining me. And please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited to chat with you on your show. I know I've had you on my channel before, so this is going to be a lot of fun. It's kind of a reverse thing.
Yeah.
It's going to be a blast. But yeah, I'm also an avid coffee drinker. I got my coffee here. Yep. Oh, it showed up. And yeah, I mean, you kind of got it all in the intro. So
yeah. Well, yeah, Maddie is, for those watching right now, Maddie is kind of my guru. I've been following her channel. She's got an amazing channel. Just definitely go check it out. I realized she sent me an email a while back with a whole bunch of links, and I haven't shared them on my website. So I need to share those at some point. But I also got my coffee here. I started a little late because I was a little delayed with my coffee making this morning. But so let's get into it. So first off, why don't you tell us a little bit about your projects, what you got going on?
So right now, oh man, I have so many different projects, but one I've been working on that's going to be releasing is this one in the background. It's dropping in July on the 13th. If you guys want to check it out, it's 99 cents right now. But I'm also working on my next book in my Ember series, which is an empowering collection of stories. Well, not really collection. It's an empowering trilogy following Ember as she has her world dumped on her head. She takes back control of her life, discovers she's heir to Hell's throne. She's Lucifer's daughter, and she had no idea. She's grown up thinking she was a wolf shifter, and turns out she's a hellhound and an angel. So it's kind of crazy, and she's like, what is going on? But she's also very, very tied to her pack, who turns out the alpha, their leader of the pack, is actually kind of corrupt and has been sacrificing people to gain more power and is trying to take over more and more land to grow the pack. And he's just got this evil agenda that they've got to figure out how to stop him. So it's really good. Another fun adventure.
So that's in your Ember series, right? Okay, so what is different with your Ember series versus the Face Shifters?
So the Face Shifters follows Liz. She is a physical therapy assistant, and she also has her world dumped on her head. She has no idea magic exists, where like Ember, in her world, magic does exist because she's grown up with shifters. But Liz grew up in the human world. She moves into her grandmother's old cabin to finally let herself grieve her mother's death, and discovers that she's not quite human. The people around her aren't quite human, and she's smack dab in the middle of a war between the balance of the realms of fae and shifters and skinwalkers and corrupted evil fae. And then another villain from the past shows up later in the series towards book 4, I believe. And he's been around since the beginning of time, but he's been kind of like in the background manipulating people to get what he wants done. And she has to take him down. But it also kind of unbalances things, which opens it up for the series to continue, but with a different character as a main point.
Okay, so there is a whole lot in there. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So are these books related in any way, or like do they follow the same similar realm or anything?
I've thought about doing a crossover because they're not. Okay. But some of the stuff that's going to happen in the 5th book to come out, the Face Shifter stuff, following a different character, I could tie it over, but I don't think I'm going to. I'm going to leave them separate. Because this one's a little bit, the Face Shifters is a little lighter, less dark fantasy versus Ember's series is a little bit darker. And there's more angels and demons and vampires and stuff in that one versus the other one, there's not. It's also, the Face Shifters is a little bit cleaner than my Ember series, which is pretty steamy. Yeah.
Good to know. Okay, so what got you into writing this kind of fantasy type genre books?
So I've always enjoyed reading. Reading's always been an escape for me growing up. That's what I like to do. I've always had my head stuck in a book. And when I was pregnant, I kind of struggled with a lot of depression, especially after giving birth. I fell into a bad postpartum depression, and writing kind of gave me an outlet to express myself and kind of channel and figure out what was going on in my head. And I had an author friend encouraged me to try to like publish, and I went through the whole trying to get with a traditional publisher, but that didn't quite work out. So I was like, okay, I'll try indie publishing and see where that goes. And that's led me here. It was kind of life-changing, and I found that I really enjoyed finishing the story and going back through, and you can see like different parts of my life coming out in the characters where like something I was struggling with, I put it into the character and it like helped me figure it out. And I thought that was really fascinating because even now, as I write and go back and read what I wrote like 6 months ago, I'm like, wow, I remember struggling with that. And I also put in a lot of like kind of self-care with my characters. They all kind of struggle with their mental thoughts and emotions and everything, especially like with the Face Shifter series. I started out there. Liz is trying to better her life and have a more relaxed, stress-free life. She's trying to get into yoga, meditation, and exercising, and just really get her mental health into check. So
okay, that's wonderful. I think I had a similar experience with that. I was going through a trying time in my life when I started writing, and I think it's a very cathartic, experience to have as a writer. And for all you new writers or aspiring writers out there, I mean, it really is transformative. It makes a difference. I that kind of makes me wonder. So you kind of answered it yourself, but I want to kind of broaden on it a little more. Where do you find that line between fiction and reality? Like, especially with you, because you're writing fantasy, but you said you integrated some of your life experiences into this. So
I did, and it was totally unintentional, but like they still have a lot going on. Like the characters have a lot going on in their own life. With Liz, I was working part-time, like regularly as a physical therapy assistant. So I got to kind of create her world off of what mine was like at the time. But now it's like some of their quirks and their humor comes from me. I wouldn't say what's going on in their world is not exactly based off of what's going on in mine, but some of the problems they face with, like, for example, Ember, there's a loss in her world. I'm not trying to like not give away too much spoilers on it, okay, but she has to struggle with the decision whether she like wants to drink a whole bunch of wine to like deal with the problem, or if she wants to like sit and actually feel the emotions, let them flow through her and like handle it, which is really the better option. And I know a lot of people in the world today struggle with that option too, because we all want to just drown out our feelings and not deal with them. Like we don't want to feel it. It's like you just don't, especially the really, really, yeah, the strong emotions. And like if someone close to you dies, and which is what happens, I'm not going to say who, you go through a lot of emotions, and she's got like the whole world riding on her shoulders because somebody's trying to take Lucifer down. She's trying to help her pack, who is being led by corrupt alpha, and it's a lot. And then she loses this person, and it's even more. So she's like being crushed under all these emotions, and she just wants to forget about it, but she chooses the better route. So
yeah. So I think is that kind of well, you said it wasn't intentional, but is there a very clear lesson that people can pull out of this?
Absolutely. Don't drown yourself in your emotion, like with alcohol, for one. Actually face your emotions head on and let them kind of go through, and just let them be and let them go. because there are circumstances in life we can't change, and it's okay to be angry or mad or sad. Just let it out.
Yeah, I have a, how old is your kids?
He's 4, and we're actually going through the working on emotion, like how we feel and naming emotions and stuff. So it's funny that we're talking about it.
Yeah, I have a 9-year-old and a 1-year-old. Our 9-year-old right now is on the early stages of what girls go through, and so she is dealing with some emotions. So we're working on those. So it's big. That's kind of a constant theme, is feelings are hard.
Yeah, they are. And we actually got for my son one of those little octopuses that you flip inside out. It has the sad face and the happy face.
Aww.
And we've been using that to help like talk about our emotions, and he loves it. I'm like, okay, this is gonna work.
So how did the writing help you as kind of going through your own personal journey through mental health?
Well, for one, like the wine thing, it kind of made me like realize that I was not dealing with my emotions like I should have been. And also with the postpartum stuff, it gave me kind of an outlet to start bettering myself and pull myself out of that depression, and be more comfortable with asking for help when I need it. So.
Okay. And do you feel like did it change you personally and change you as a mom when you were writing?
I think so, because it's taught me how to balance life as a mom better, and kind of given me a way to connect with others that is like outside of here. Because honestly, with the pandemic and everything going on, it's been really hard to like get together with people. And I found like I've connected better with people that are other writers online than I have in person, because there's not a lot of people that write what I do, like living within the vicinity. So yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Oklahoma. So are you a Sooners fan?
I guess so. I'm going to say yes. I don't follow sports a lot, but my husband and his family are diehard Sooner fans. Like orange is not allowed in the house for Cowboys. No.
Okay, that's good to know. So I'm from Texas, so my dad is a huge Texas Longhorns fan.
Oh no.
I know, but it's okay. I'm like, I didn't go to school in Texas, so I don't really, I don't know. I was raised always rooting for UT, but then when I went to college, I was an archaeology major, and my my advisor actually told me the best, because I was into nautical archaeology, and she said this is perfect. The best program for you is in Texas, in the whole United States. I was like, oh, awesome. Where is that? Texas A&M. For those of you who know, yeah, UT and A&M is not a thing. So I had to open up my mind and realize, maybe I'm not I didn't go to UT, so maybe I shouldn't be such a diehard fan anymore, But yeah, so I had to ask because I knew you were from Oklahoma City. So
yeah.
But all right, so let's keep moving on. I have a couple questions. I know, so I did ask you in the written portion, and I wanted to hear more about what you think books can do for inspiring social change, because that's what this channel is all about. It's about getting deeper through our writing. So us as creators and writers, we put out we put out these stories to the public, right? And as you said, a lot of them are very personal, and even if you don't intend to do it that way, we put ourselves out on the page or in video or whatever it is. But something I learned as a young writer was that when I went to my editor the first time was, hey, these words did not come across the way you intended, and this is what I was getting. So I read about a lot of contentious issues, and my editor had some experience with that. And she was like, are you sure this is what you want to be putting out? Because this is what I'm taking from it. So I wanted to get your opinion on how you feel, writing can inspire change and can affect people just in general.
So anything you write really does inspire change. It depends on how they take it. A lot of times my books, they focus on your like mental health, well-being and stuff. And it's almost subtle, because you want to relate to the character in the story. I've found myself as I'm reading kind of take on some of the main characters' like mannerisms, and anything they feel in the book kind of affects me. But also like the problems they have to face in their own world, you can apply that to our world. A book I read recently, it really talked about the ocean and the pollution in the ocean. and it was kind of a different spinoff on the Greek goddesses. And it was fascinating to read because they were struggling to fight back the black waters, which was the polluted waters, because anything that touches that, you're either going to die or it's going to completely change you into this monster. And I thought it was interesting because we have so many issues with pollution in our own world. And it kind of like, I felt like it was kind of pushing me to do more. And I already am, I try to be conscious of like my carbon footprint as I am, like, but it just stuff like that, you can subtly get it across and get people thinking about it. And that's more of a fiction standpoint on mine. Like if you read nonfiction on stuff like that, it's obviously going to be straightforward, but it's just some people need to be subtly like influenced like that, and enjoying a good book where it kind of brings that in, but in a different kind of focus, it gets to the message across better.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of influencing change also, because a lot of people are stuck in their, in their ways, and they don't want to be, told, they don't want to be dictated that you have to do this, right? So
yeah,
doing it in a creative way and kind of immersing people into this other world sometimes makes you sit back and kind of self-reflect, right?
Yeah, and it makes them want to change things, change their life to better. Like another thing I saw, and I think this was a TikTok post a while back, was how main character of a story inspired this person to go work out more, because if they can like train and do all this stuff at that age and they're this age, like they should be working harder to focus on their body. And I was like, hey, that's a good way to take like a good takeaway from that story, because it was a fantasy adventure story and it's I can't remember which character it was, but it was one of Sarah J. Maas's characters in her books. And I was like, that's good. Like, so.
Yeah. I don't know if you can hear my little boy in the background, but yeah, I have a little 1-year-old who's just waking up. So yeah, that leads me to my next question. So awareness, this is one of my favorite quotes. So awareness is the greatest agent for change. And that is something that I integrate into, everything I do with content creation, web building, writing, travel planning. I think that's something that we're kind of touching on just briefly right now, and I want to dig into it a little more. How do you feel you as a writer can affect that awareness? And what steps do you think you would take to affect awareness on a larger scale?
Well, I will say, as like I grow as an author, my reader like crowd has grown, and a lot of them connect with me and stuff, and just like talking with them about different topics that maybe you bring up in your book. Like I really like to talk about mental health, because honestly, our world needs better mental health stuff. There's not enough focus on it. And I feel like it's grown in the years, but all of my books have some form of like making people aware of how they feel or what's going on in their head, what the best way to deal with that solution is. All my characters have to go through that same process. And it really, I feel like, or at least I hope it does, makes them stop and pause and think about how they feel and how they react to certain things. And it just kind of goes from there, I guess. Does that answer the question? I was like,
yeah. No, that's perfect. It's hard. They're difficult questions to ask. I know. Talking about mental health in general is very, it's touchy. It's a touchy subject. I know it's something that I had to go through. I had to learn as well. I was brought up in an environment where it was frowned upon. That concept of shrink was, it's just a misnomer. And it took me a long time to finally ask for help. And once I finally did, it changed my world dramatically. So it's a wonderful thing. And I agree with you that, everyone out there listening, I mean, you should definitely, emphasize your mental health. That's very important. So if you were to pick 1 to 3 social issues, what would be, so you've already mentioned mental health a whole bunch, so we understand that's probably your number 1. Are there any other things that you would like your readers to champion or look into?
Well, I definitely like to focus on the carbon footprint and not creating as much waste, because there is a lot of waste in our world right now, a lot of pollution. And I feel that the awareness of it is growing, but a lot of people are like, oh no, I don't have to worry about that. Like, it doesn't faze me. And I honestly, we don't use very many paper products in my house. My husband, when I switched it over, was not happy about it at first. Was like, I don't want to create any more waste. Like, we recycle here. Like, we try not to use paper products at all if we can. I mean, on occasion we do. I'm not completely like cut it out, but versus like, which I've kind of pushed on my parents to do it. They use all kinds of paper products just because they don't want to do dishes so often. And I'm like, I will gladly do dishes if it's cutting it back. And they'll argue with me and say, well, we support the local business because in the southeast part of Oklahoma, Weyerhaeuser is a big like company, and they are constantly replanting trees and growing trees to harvest and create paper and stuff. And I get that. Like, the fact that they're replanting it is good, but there's just, we need more of this kind of stuff going on in the world to reduce everyone's carbon footprint, because our air quality will improve. And I think everybody overall will feel better if we like focus on cutting back.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and just the smallest effort, you know, makes a big difference. So when you combine all those small acts, you know, we can make a big change. So I think too many people become apathetic because, you know, you see the big world and it's like, what is my action going to do to everything else? You know, there's so many problems.
But it will make a big difference. And like, even we went on a trip to New Mexico last year, and I got to see an Earth ship. I had no idea what an Earth ship was till I went and checked it out. And I was completely like fascinated, because it's completely, everybody is self-sustainable, runs off of solar and wind power. It's kind of a home that's kind of set into the earth a little bit for you guys that don't know what it is.
I have no idea what it is, so please.
And it's really cool, but like, they grow their own food. It's got a greenhouse wrapped around, and because it's set down in the earth, like, it's easier to maintain temperature. I mean, because New Mexico gets hot, and it was really cool because they collect rainwater and reuse their rainwater. The girl that introduced us to it, she gave us a tour of everything, had just like one bottle full of stuff that was the amount of waste that she'd had in the last like year. But they also recycle materials to build these houses, like almost like a mud kind of thing, but they take the recycled bottles to build and put it into the walls, and it helps create the greenhouse stuff to grow your plants and everything. So they're growing their own food, and it's just like self-sufficient. It was so cool.
It's called an Earth ship. Like
an Earth ship. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is amazing. That makes me wonder. Quick question. So has travel influenced your writing?
A little bit, and I want to travel more. I actually had planned to travel more this year, but gas prices are not like very good right now, and we can't afford an electric car, so maybe in the future we'll have one. But I love to travel, and I want to travel more. I am going to be going to the Multiverse Con in the fall, in October. That's in Georgia. That may be my only big travel this year because gas is so expensive though.
Yeah, I guess it's ridiculous, but yeah. I know we're dealing with that right now because we're road tripping down through Mexico. So once we got to our location, we kind of just sit. So we haven't had to fill up too much since we've been in Oaxaca. Yeah, it's rough.
it makes it easier when you don't have to like do a bunch of driving when you get there. Because I know when we did go to New Mexico, I thought the cabin we were staying in was in a little bit closer, but it wasn't. It was kind of up in the mountains, and the closest town was like 25 minutes down the road. So it was like, okay, we got to get in the car and drive. Like, so.
Yeah, that's always rough. So where do you think you would want to go that would influence your stories?
Ooh.
When you can travel?
Yes. That's a hard question. That's like narrowing it down. I do want to go to Alaska because there's a scene in my Ember series that I had to do a lot of chatting with some friends from Alaska to kind of like set it up and do some research. But I would love to go to Alaska to visit, like, to see how it is, because they're kind of isolated off from the world, and it's interesting to see how people figure out how to maintain food and live, and especially with them being in like a colder climate, it's very different than like what Texas and Oklahoma are. We just like we don't have winter, you know? So we do, but it's not really winter. And they actually have snow and stuff all the time. So it would be really cool. Yeah.
I highly recommend Germany. So
If I can go out of the country, yes. Germany is on the list, Ireland. I want to go to Scotland as well. But I want my son to be a little bit older so we can like manage it easier. Because right now I don't know how he would do on a plane. So yeah, I gotta update our passports though.
yeah, it's if you go so Germany, I'm just thinking, so I don't read too much fantasy, but interviewing all of you fantasy authors is making me really want to look into your books and consider shifting into fantasy because it just sounds super cool. But yeah, I'm constantly thinking like the little bit of fantasy I know, I'm like, okay, Black Forest, the forest in Slovenia, like they're very mystical and dark, and I feel like there could be so much inspiration for you guys out there.
Absolutely. And Ireland, I've always found Ireland mythology very interesting because my family, like I have a lot of Irish and Scottish blood mixed with English. And I've always kind of wanted to like research into that and study their different fairy tales and whatnot, which it's so different than what we have and what we've grown up with here. Because I feel like Greek and Roman mythology was really pushed on everybody, but like the stuff with Irish culture and the Celtic, I think, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
That I may have pronounced that, so nobody hate on me, but it's just fascinating. So, and I have a whole book of it that I haven't got to sit and study because I got it like while I was pregnant, and life has just been insane. So
that's awesome. I think that's something really interesting too with writing, that it allows us to be kind of scholars. You know, for me, I wrote a lot about different religions and different, because I did sci-fi, so it was like geopolitical and religious components that I really tied into it. So I did a whole bunch of research and got to learn a bunch of things that I had no idea about. So I think, is that something that you've experienced as well?
Yeah. And actually on the religion part, because okay, so I went to a Nazarene college, and I got to study different religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, and everything. It was kind of like we had a class on it, and it was fascinating because I did some more research into it, and you can see a little bit of that come out in Ember's story in Black Flames, and I subconsciously did it, I guess, because somebody brought it up. They're like, "Oh yeah, you talk on the religion part here, and like how hell is like not what they picture in the Bible and stuff." Because I'm like, hell is just like another world for people living in there, and I made a joke that coffee's always fresh in hell and there's none in heaven, and it's just a joking thing, but like I also tie in different religions, how they're separate parts of the realm. Like if you have like Greek or Roman blood, there's a part where you go to, versus if you're Christian, you go to this part of hell. And it's just breaking that down into different aspects. You kind of have to have a background knowledge of like the different like Egyptian culture and everything too. Like I'm not saying I'm an expert at it or anything, but I did a little bit of research into it. It's just, yeah.
There's different hell neighborhoods.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Okay. Or you're talking Dante, you're thinking different circles of hell.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I started like talking really fast. So I was like, wait, did I get all of that?
No, that's awesome. I'm just my brain is going crazy right now. I have all these ideas popping into my mind right now. But before we run out of time, let's go back real quick to your book. So the world building component, I'm very curious because for me, I did the sci-fi dystopian stuff. So my world building was futuristic, thinking about, you know, how life could be. But you go into this whole different place altogether, right? So like how did that come out? Like where did your creativity start, and how is it difficult? Like, just tell us about it.
It really, for me, it's not, because I've always had a really good imagination and the urban fantasy part of it. So all the stories feature a forest, and that is based off of the state park I grew up next to, Beavers Bend State Park in Southeast Oklahoma. That is like one of my favorite places to go. It's right there on the lake, on the river. That is where the forest idea came from. It's way more busy now because like it's boomed with kind of like the touristy stuff, but the whole hell portion, I kind of took the ideas from books I've read that have had hell as well. I kind of spun it off and did more of like just another world kind of thing. But one book I had, it was very desolate, but they had regular buildings and stuff. I didn't want to do desolate because I wanted it to be a pretty place. Because I mean, you want to have a happy story, and hell's not a bad place in this book. It's just a place where people go that kind of messed up in their lives, and they get kind of a second chance. So, or if you're a creature of hell, like if you're born there, born of it, like you affect the people that end up there. So
yeah. And that's kind of a theme that you mentioned in the written portion where you talked about, I asked what you want readers to get out of some of your writing, and you talked about, do you remember what you answered? Or I can
probably something about second chances. I could pull it up.
Yes, like, it was
yeah.
Second chances, and that there's a different, everything's not black and white.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray areas. So, and that's life.
Yeah. So yeah, this has been wonderful. I know we are running short on time. So I want to give you the opportunity. Please tell everyone where we can find you, what's coming up, what's new down the chute, and everything like that.
So my next release is this book behind me here. Oop, this side. It's coming on July 13th. After that, I will be dropping Blue Flames, which is the second book in the Ember trilogy. I'll be having a cover reveal probably in the next month or so. I want to finish the manuscript, which is with beta readers right now, and then it'll go through a whole nother editing process. That'll probably come out like September, I think, is what I'm aiming for. But yeah, and then I've got some Bella stories out if you guys want to check it out. Okay. Which, if you can see my website down here, that is where you can find all my stuff. So
okay, so everything on thechaptergoddess.com.
Yep.
Okay, awesome, cool. And then do you have Facebook and everything else like that?
I do. I have an awesome Facebook group, which I'm constantly growing, where authors can come and hang out, participate, share their stories, and I do group takeovers as well for authors. So yeah, come hang out. We're gonna have a big party for my release day soon.
I need to jump back on a group takeover. I missed it on that last one. But yeah, if you go find her group, I will put all the links down below. But she's exceptional at her group Facebook grouping, trying to learn from the best right there, because she always has fun, engaging posts and a lot of stuff going on. And I want to throw out, I'm really appreciative to you for supporting, me as well. I know you share a lot of posts that I put out, and you're just a really you support the community, you support the other authors, and I think it's wonderful, and I really appreciate that.
I like to support other authors because if you support them, they support you, and it's kind of like you build friendships that way. So yeah.
So well, thank you so much for coming, and it's been truly a pleasure, and I hope to have you again soon.
All right, thank you for having me.
All right, everyone out there, if you'd like this interview, definitely click subscribe. We have so many other authors that I've had on this show, and they all have wonderful, inspiring stories. So don't forget, you can make a change one act at a time, and read more, write mindfully.